Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 11 of What If Naruto Was Personally Trained by Kurama after leaving the village. First of all guys, go ahead and check out the brand new series over on Anime King 3, my own personal creation of What If Naruto Was Neglected with Jashin Seal Inside of Him part 1, and enjoy that guys. And I also posted a brand new series over on Anime King 2 of What If Naruto Was Neglected and Lost Everything. So go ahead and enjoy that guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, the group rushed towards the destination where Tsunade was, as they had forgot Jiraiya. As Naruto had moved incredibly fast, Orochimaru was there as uncle was pissed to see the man as she wanted to kill him. As Naruto attacked the man, that new fury. As Naruto told TY to go and get Jiraiya, they need him. She was reluctant but she headed off. Jiraiya came back to see the scene, as the toxin that Tsunade gave him was still in his system and not fully flushed out yet. But everyone was surprised Naruto performed the High Rasen, shocking them to their core, as Naruto then slammed a Rasengan down on Orochimaru, a giant Rasengan that cracked and tear through the earth. Orochimaru slipped out of his own body, as he re-emerged completely unarmed. Naruto started to get pissed, as the man just wouldn't die, as his skin started to peel off. Gaara had to stop him from losing his sanity. As he placed his sand down to cover Naruto, it had a seal on it. As Naruto reverted back to normal, his skin burned badly, but at least he was back. Orochimaru, knowing that Naruto would become a threat in the future, went to kill him, but a fist smashed into his face. As Tsunade saved him. As Orochimaru asked her would she really stand up and die for this pathetic brat, she told him yes. Orochimaru realized that everything was against him, so he decided to leave as he couldn't fend them off all at once, as Jiraiya was also recovering. Some time passed as Naruto woke up. TY immediately hugged him, as Jiraiya wanted to know the hell he learned the High Rasen. As Naruto told him what happened in the past with him, as it wasn't exactly the High Rasen, but he was able to use the physics of summon and place a seal anywhere to just summon himself there and summon to the other seal. Jiraiya was shocked that the kid was able to master something so complex and yet simple at the same time, as he was trying to bribe Naruto to teach him, making the group shake their head. The group returned back to Konoha, as Uncle had enough. She decided to push things as she asked Naruto out on a date. TY didn't say anything as the girl just deflated. The next day, as Uncle was pushing it, even kissing Naruto on the cheek, TY lost it in rage as she started to curse Uncle as much as he could before she ran off, as Naruto went after her, stopping her on the Hokage's monument. She finally told him that she liked him. He told her that he liked her as well, but he didn't understand what she was saying as she punched him over the head. She actually liked him. She kissed him, as Naruto started to understand what she meant by actually like him. As he asked, so does this make them boyfriend and girlfriend? She told him to shut up as she snuggled up in his arms. Gaara came to find them the next morning, as they had stayed out here the entire time. As TY wasn't ready to move yet, and she get rather grumpy if you push her, so Gaara simply made his way back down. TY wanted time to think to herself as she couldn't believe that she was now going out with Naruto. When she wandered towards the Uchiha compound, not even know where she was going, as she came up on the stranger's sight, that boy that was on Hinata's team was there, along with some strange members as they were here for the Uchiha. As Sasuke was willing to go with them, Kimimaru captured her. She was surprised. It was Orochimaru, man. This boy Hibiki, he was on their side as well. She thought he was a Konoha ninja. Seems like he was a traitor. As Seikon told Kimimaru that she was the one that Orochimaru said to look out for. He forced a pill into her mouth as she started to scream in pain before he sealed her and Sasuke away in a separate coffin before they headed off. As Naruto was walking, long time ago in Konan had placed a lily on his hand and told him to watch over Teiwaya. It started to burn as Naruto instantly knew something was wrong with her. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I thought. You guys can switch across the playlist and check it out for yourself. So this is the beginning of this new episode. Teiwaya is in trouble. Naruto quickly set off with Gaara on his tail as the both of them located the highest point within the area. Naruto stood on the tallest tower as he sniffed in all directions, trying to find her scent to locate her, but he couldn't come up with nothing. That meant her scent was being masked or either she left the village. We need to inform the Hokage about this to get some help, said Gaara. Gaara was always the voice of reason in these situations. Naruto nodded as they sprinted towards the Hokage's tower. It didn't take long for them to reach the tower as they brushed past the secretary and burst through the door. Snaddy looked at them over a stack of paperwork, immediately noticing their worried expressions. What is it, Brett? Can't you see I have a stack of paperwork that is gonna take all night to get through? Naruto narrowed his eyes. He didn't really give a damn about the meaningless pile of sheets when his friend was in danger. Teiwaya is in trouble, and we need help finding her. Snaddy looked at him curiously, as she has never seen him this serious before. What kind of trouble and how do you know? Naruto growled in irritation. He didn't have time to explain. I don't know what kind of trouble, but we need help. Look, Brad, I can't help you if you don't know what. Suddenly, one of the Anvus appeared in the room, cutting her off. Lady Hokage, 4 stone ninjas were seen, fleeing the village with one Sasuke Uchiha and an unknown red-haired girl that was bound. Naruto's eyes widened at that, as he quickly bolted towards the door. Whoever it was that tried to kidnap her, he was gonna make them pay. Naruto, wait! He paused as he turned towards Snaddy. She turned back to the dog, Mass Anvu. Give me more information, she said. The Anvu nodded curtly. Our intel placed them as a Sound 4, Orochimaru elite bodyguard team that is responsible for preventing us from helping the 3rd Hokage. And also the Uchiha was not bound in any fashion. He was leaving of his own free will. Snaddy nodded as she mulled over the information for a moment. How many Anvus are currently available? Even under the mask, everyone could tell that the man was frowning. None, Lady Hokage. All Anvu units are currently on missions or in their appropriate positions defending the village. Naruto snarled at that. If that was true, then how the hell did these 4 ninjas get into the village? Snaddy also grimaced at the news. There was a similar situation with the Jonins as well. Either all of them were on missions solo, or they were out with their teams on missions as well. Round up available Chunins and Genin immediately. Have them in my office, available in 5 minutes. The Anvu nodded as he vanished from the room, leaving Naruto scratching his wrist where the pedal mark was. We don't have 5 minutes. They could be hurting Teiwaya right now. As Snaddy turned towards Naruto with the most understanding expression that she could muster. Look, Naruto, I know you care about your teammate, but you heard that Anvu. They're Orochimaru elite guards. You will need some backup if you're going to take all of them on, she said. Naruto sighed as he knew her logic was right, as he kept on pacing around the room until the Anvu came back. The only available he could find was Kiba, Lee, and Neji. They were quickly informed of the situation, although they were more concerned about Sasuke defection than Teiwaya kidnapping, much Naruto's annoyance. He did notice though that Lee and Neji were wearing their Chunin flap jacket, so one of them would be leading the mission. He wasn't a Leaf Shinobi, so he wouldn't be leading the mission. Finally, they were all caught up as they made their way towards the gates to get the kidnapper's trail. As Naruto was impatient and kept on running ahead of the group, as Gaara had to recall him, Lee could keep up with him, but he didn't have the same sense of urgency. And Neji also called him back, as he thought the stuck-up Hyuga was placed in charge. They regrouped at the gate, as Lee could sense Naruto's eagerness as he walked over. He placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't worry, my friend. We shall retrieve your teammate and our wayward Sasuke. The words irritated Naruto, but he offered Lee a fake smile just to get him to go away. Neji had them come around so he could draw out the plan. A waste of time in Naruto's opinion. He and Gaara could take these guys on no problem, but the others would just end up drawing them down. After all, if he was going after these guys, he was not going to hold back at all. Alright, we have no idea about the ability of our opponents. Therefore, when we approach, we should observe before we engage. Naruto growled at that, but he nodded nonetheless with the group. We should try and avoid getting spotted if possible. But our ultimate objective here is the retrieval of Sasuke and Teiwaya. We will move out now in a spread out formation to cover more ground, with Naruto and Kiba at the front to track our targets. Gaara and Lee will be behind them as support, and I will take up the rear to watch out for any traps or tricks the target might leave for us. When we get closer, we will slow down and assume a similar formation with Naruto and Kiba in the front, followed by Gaara and Lee, then finally myself. All of them nodded. As Neji motioned, they were immediately off. Naruto was frustrated as he raced through the trees. While Kiba was fast, he wasn't nowhere near Naruto's speed when he was moving so fast. So he had to limit himself to keep in distance with the group. He and Gaara may be strong, but on his own, he wasn't so sure he could take on 4, possibly, Jonin level shinobi. Kiba was trying to locate Teiwaya's scent, but it was proving highly difficult. So instead he locked onto any unfamiliar smell that he could tell apart from the natural scents in the forest. Eventually he caught something as he took off in that direction, followed by the rest of the group. A small amount of time later, Kiba confirmed his suspicions as he picked up the unfamiliar scent even more. As Naruto was still concerned that he wasn't able to track Teiwaya normally and was concerned what they had done to his girlfriend. It made him want to explode with rage, but he had to keep himself calm. After a few more hours, the Sound 4 had to come to a stop, as 2 of them were lugging around 2 coffins on their back. Naruto grinned when he noticed that, but Neji told him to slow down, as Naruto grimaced as they quietly approached the group. It wasn't difficult to avoid their traps with Neji Byakugan. He even spotted the 3rd layer that was running underneath the 2nd trap. As they gathered around the trees, the Sound 4 was just there, catching their breath after such a long run. As they took a look towards one of the members, they were quite surprised. Kiba ended up gasping as he saw Hibiki, his teammate, wearing the same uniform as these guys. That alerted the Sound 4. The group had to quickly dodge the weapon that Kimimaru shot out as they landed in the clearing. Neji, where is Sasuke and Teiwaya? As Neji started to concentrate hard on the group. I think they're in the coffins, he said. You think? It was Lee that asked. Although they were all thinking the same thing. There is something blocking my Byakugan to a degree. I think it's the seals on the coffin, though I can't tell. Hibiki! What the hell are you doing with these guys? Asked Kiba. Hibiki simply glared at Kiba and his dog. Please. I was a spy for Lord Orochimaru this whole time. You idiots of the Hidden Leaf never suspected that thing. Kiba growled as Akamaru started to bark. Hibiki, hold these clones off. We still need to make the Lord Orochimaru on time. The other members of Zone 4 placed the coffins on their back as he took off with Hibiki standing there. Naruto shot forward, but he had to dodge a strike from Hibiki. Naruto's eyes started to bleed red. Fine, you want to go again? I'll rip you to strikes for touching her, said Naruto, as his fan started to extend. But he was stopped as a firm hand placed on his shoulder. It was Kiba. No, you guys go on. He looked at Hibiki with disgust. I'll keep the traitor here busy. Naruto didn't waste time as he shot forward, as Hibiki leaped to stop him, but a vicious kick from Kiba sent him flying away. He twists as he slammed his heels into a tree, stopping his momentum from going too far. Your fight is with me, said Kiba. Hibiki looked at him with a smirk. If you want, he said. Meanwhile, as the group was quickly making their way, suddenly the ground erupted in front of them. They had to separate as it came crashing back down. They regrouped as the dust settled, as they saw the largest of the Sound 4 standing there with a smirk on his face. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he worked out what the group was actually trying to do. They're trying to delay us. We need to get to the coffins quickly before they escape. The group nodded as Lee stepped forward towards the robo. I will keep our opponent busy and match my flames of youth against his. Naruto glanced back as Neji nodded. Fine then, but be careful. Once you deal with him, make sure to catch up. Lee grinned as he extended a big thumbs up as they sprinted around the clearing, leaving Jirobo to face Lee. I won't even need my curse mark to deal with a pipsqueak like you. Lee just continued to smile as he slipped into his stance. Let us fight, he said. Meanwhile, as Naruto and the group keep on going, as Naruto's mind was thinking, their numbers were dwindling down. But what if more Sound members were waiting for them at the end of the border? His mind was too preoccupied for him to see it coming as he was caught right into a web as the others met similar fate. The 6-armed member Kimimaru dropped down as he looked towards them. It's almost too easy. It's not surprising anymore how much people fall for a simple trap like that. As Naruto shrugged against his bonds, what the hell were these things? You guys can't get out of that, the weapon is enhanced with chakra. One of Naruto's armor free as he pulled a kuna and launched it towards Kimimaru. Kimimaru simply tilted his head as the thing stuck into a tree. Is that the best you can do? Aren't you tuning? Kimimaru laughed, but his laugh instantly stopped when Naruto vanished. His eyes opened wide with shock as a foot slammed in the back of his head as he was sent hurtling down towards the forest floor. He managed to swing out a web and swing to a nearby tree only to see Neji and Gaara also standing there, free. How? That's impossible. Both of them smirked as Neji was the first one to explain. Simple. With my Byakugan I can see the chakra flow running through your webs. I simply use my Jayugen strike to cut that chakra flow. And then I simply cut your webs. Kimimaru frowned as he looked towards Gaara. You aren't the only one with chakra infused substance at your control. That was all that he said. Neji stood up on the branch as he motioned towards Gaara and Naruto. Go. I can deal with these webs now that I understand them. You two must go rescue Teiwaya and confront Sasuke. The blonde and the redhead nodded as the both of them took off, trusting in the others to handle their fights. It didn't take long to catch up to Seikon, who had split into two people, the lump on his back vanishing. Each of them carried a different coffin, so they were remarkably slower than Gaara and Naruto. Even so, he was able to reach a large open field at the center of the forest. The blue-haired man and his double turned, as they were unable to outrun their pursuers for any longer. They put the coffins down as a temporary. Leaf ninjas drop into the clearing. There is nowhere left to run. Huh, you hear that, Ukon? They think that we're running. Funny, isn't it, brother? Said Ukon. They just walk right into our trap, like good little idiots. Shut the hell up and fight, so we can take Teiwaya back. Ukon and Seikon chuckled as they turned towards the coffins behind them. Oh, brother, I do think the leaf ninjas are too late. The other one nodded happily. I do think that you're right, brother, he said. Oh well, would you look at that? Sure enough, the coffins start to release a purple smoke that drifts across the ground like dry ice. What are you doing to her? Said Naruto. The brothers smirk once again. He wants to know about stage 2, Ukon. Maybe we should show them. The both of them turned that smile on their face as they dropped into a fighting stance. This ought to be fun, the both of them said. Meanwhile, Kiba glared at Hibiki with all of his hate, as Hibiki simply smirked, as it amused him that they actually think that he was, well, befriending them, when they were just giving him information and also helping him train to better his goals. The best part was fooling his sensei. As for such a high rank level Jonin to fall for his charades for so long. Why would you do this, Hibiki? Hibiki glanced around. Why the hell wouldn't I, he said. You could never understand with your family and your normal life. Lord Orochimaru saved me. He saved all of us. He gave us meaning and purpose, where before we had none. He gave our simple life meaning with one simple request from us: obedience. We became tools, but still, at least we were something other than orphans left on the side of the road for dead. Kiba snarled, the sub story not really getting through to him, a veil of anger that he was feeling. It doesn't matter what kind of life you had. Nothing is worth selling your soul to that snake bastard. Hibiki's fist shook for a moment before he calmed himself as his face returned back neutral. Like I said, you would never understand the pain of losing your entire family, to be thrown aside by everyone that you call friend. Kiba settled into his taijutsu stance. You're right, I don't understand because I have a family. One I'll be going back to after I kick your ass. Hibiki growled as his hands opened and closed into fists, as he read his chakra network for its complex ability. Kiba recognized this after so long of training with the boy, as he knew that he couldn't make him stall for any longer. Kiba launched himself at Hibiki, much the same way he did Sasuke in the preliminaries, but the difference between now and then, he was much faster. After seeing what Lee could do with weights, Kiba decided to experiment with them as well. He was only in the first stage, the early stage of weight training, but the payoff was good. His strength and speed were vastly past the normal training standards with his family style. His mother and sister were shocked. It was enough that they started experimenting while adding the weights to their normal aspects of their family taijutsu. Of course, they didn't go to the extreme like Guy and Lee and always wear the weights. Hibiki was shocked as Kiba smirked as he drive a fist right into the traitor's gut. Hibiki doubled over. Kiba tried to slash him with his claw-like nails, but he only passed right through him, as he vibrated. Kiba saw how Naruto dealt with that problem, but he had made adjustment to his style. Kiba had to back off as every time he would just pass through Hibiki or his fist would get burned. It seems like Hibiki had been holding a lot back when they usually spar. We got fairly close over these last few months, wouldn't you say, Kiba? As Kiba saw that Hibiki was stalling for time, both for his teammate and for him to catch his breath. His vibration technique was second nature, but used in short quantities and quickly. It was chakra consuming. Kiba simply growled. I would take that as a yes, and as such, I decided I will end this quickly. Kiba saw Hibiki split into two clones, both as real, both twice as dangerous now. I never could take that annoying blonde advice and learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but I decided to upgrade a bit. Kiba watched in shock as the two Hibikis split apart, so now it was four of them in front of him. What do you think? His voice had taken on a buzzing quality due to the intense vibration his body was going through. As Kiba wondered, how was this even possible? But in a world where people could walk on water or create clones out of mid-air, he decided just to focus on not dying. Man beast clone, he said. Akamaru poof, as he turned into a perfect duplicate of Kiba. Come on boy, that's two each, Kiba said, as Akamaru nodded before the both of them set off. Meanwhile, Lee dodged as Drobo fist smashed into the earth, ripping it apart. Lee was too swift as he kept on getting by Drobo. Drobo eye was twitching in annoyance. Stay one place, you little pipsqueak, he said, as he brought down both fists, trying to crush Lee under the weight. But as hard as he tried, he couldn't even land one blow on Lee, as Lee was just dodging each and every one of his attacks. While I admit your fighting is youthful and energetic indeed, I must disagree with your methods of kidnapping a woman such as the Fear Tewaya. I am honor-stricken to do everything with my power to save such a damsel in distress. So I wish you a good fight. Lee flipped away from another hard swipe as he landed with grace and precision. Hold still, you twig, so I can crush you. And that stupid bold haircut. Lee eye twitched a little at the comment, but his stance was still flawless. I must have you know my hair is based off of the handsome, dev-loving Lee village guy Sensei, and I will not have you insult him. Drobo was a bit confused by that, as Lee zipped across. Leaf Hurricane. A strong kick slammed into his stomach, as he was surprised by the force. Unfortunately for Lee though, it was like kicking a boulder. Exercise that he has done many times, but that didn't mean he could move it. Drobo tried to grab him, but Lee slipped right under his legs. He delivered two swift and powerful kicks to the back of Drobo's knees. Drobo spun as he tried to grab Lee, but Lee backflipped away. Drobo got more irritated as he slammed his hand into the earth and dragged up a massive stone. Drobo threw it, but Lee did not move. Lee simply raised his leg in the air, one leg with so much flexibility that the moment the boulder came close, he drove it down and smashed the boulder into pieces. The power of the kick and the weight around Lee's ankles drive the boulder back into the earth, creating dust everywhere. Drobo roared in annoyance, as when the smoke clearly saw him, he had strange arrow-like patterns all over his skin. Very well, if you believe we can move on to the next stage of our fight, then we shall. Drobo looked confused as Lee bent over as he removed his ankle weights, both at once. He was shocked when he saw Lee drop them, and a sizable crater was formed. Drobo scowled. Is that all you got, kid? He said. Wait, he couldn't get to finish that sentence, as a brutal axe kick smashed across the side of his face, launching his body into a tree. Most youthful indeed, said Lee. Meanwhile, as Neji was currently blocking a fury of arrows with precision as he spun, he released a burst of pure chakra from his palm. Kimimaru had to leap away as the thing destroyed the branch that he was on. As Neji turned and faced the opponent, motioned for him to come, Kimimaru snarled as he activated the first level of his curse mark. Meanwhile, the entire clearing was a wreck. Kiba and Akamaru returned back to normal as the both of them were panting. As Hibiki stood there, he slowed down his ability, looking a bit dizzy, but not looking so bad off as Kiba and Akamaru. The both of them had expelled so much chakra trying to get him, but the boy just kept on, making them pass through him, or speeding up his body so fast it burned them when they hit him. He smirked as he walked over as Kiba raised his head. Hey Sato, I bet you don't have enough chakra to do that clone technique again. After all, you're the one that told me that your vibration technique took a lot of chakra from you. Hibiki glared at him. Despite him almost getting defeat, he was still trying to mock him. Well, he guessed he could do it as a last request for a dead man. His body vibrated and split into two people, both of them looking towards Kiba as he approached him slowly. Kiba simply pulled out a single kunai as he held onto it. His hand was shaking. Really, Kiba? You're that desperate? Kiba simply chuckled as Hibiki glared at him. Kiba looked at the kunai before throwing it as hard as he could between the blur forms of Hibiki, but it simply passed right through him. As Hibiki scoffed, pathetic. I don't even have to resort to stage 2. Well, if that's all you have, Kiba, then he was cut off. As Kiba pulled the wire in his hand, pulling the kunai that got embedded into the tree. The last thing Hibiki saw was a flash of light reflecting off the metal of the kunai before darkness. Kiba hand fall as he lay over on his back. He looked up in the sky as he really wondered what Kimimaru saw so interesting with these clouds above him before his vision went away. Later on, the envoy and the medical team will come across a strange scene. Kiba with Kimimaru perched in his jacket and another dead shinobi a few feet away from him. As the battleground was ripped and torn apart, trees were broken. The battle was intense. Meanwhile, right now the only thing that was keeping Drobo up was his incredible, durable body. Lee blows were too fast, too unpredictable for him to keep up. As he was getting hit from left or right, he was lucky that his body was strong and able to take blows quite well. Occasionally, he would catch a green flash. When he turned, it was gone and his back of his head was smacked hard as he was knocked down. Lee didn't appear a few feet away, complete the final. Drobo was covered in bruises from head to toe. He wasn't really badly hurt, but if the fight continued like this, he was gonna get defeated. You have lasted longer than I thought. Your flames of youth must burn extremely bright. But I would ask that you surrender before I have to take more drastic measures, Lee. Drobo grimaced. If this was just a warm-up for the brat, he didn't want to find out what those drastic measures were. As he started to transform, his skin became the same color as dry blood, and his hair grew long and wild. His body started to swell up at certain areas as he grew a bit taller, more bulky, as he growled towards Lee like a wild animal. Lee blurred out of sight. Drobo's eyes were now fast, able to see things rather quickly. So he was able to catch Lee's leg right in front of his face before it could smack him right in the face. Drobo brought out his other fist as he was about to crush Lee's leg, but Lee slammed his other feet right into Drobo's mouth, enough to loosen his grip as he flipped away. Lee at the same time was excited at the challenge this man brought. As he has gone up to the next level, it was time for him to do the same. Gate of open. Open, he said. Gate of healing. Open. Gate of life. Open! As Lee entered the third gate, his skin turning red, his eyes turning white, veins pulsating on his forehead. As Lee blurred out of sight, Drobo blinked. That was enough time as he felt something crash into his chin, picking him up off the ground and throwing him upwards. This happened 3 more times, slamming him painfully up and up in the air as he felt like he was actually flying up. As he was unable to do anything, Lee appeared above him, his eyes not showing any pupils, just white orbs, like the Shinigami itself. Drobo got one look before Lee spun and slammed his heel into Drobo's stomach. His own weight plus the force of the kick as the entire forest ground was blown apart. Trees were rooted up, large boulders were torn from the earth. But Lee wasn't done as he came down a bomb, slamming into Drobo's chest. Boom! Another massive explosion of dirt, dust, and trees were blown away as Drobo burst out blood out of his mouth. As he fell unconscious, the marks were seething. Lee stood over his latest opponent as he was getting better with the gates. He soon hoped to match his sensei to be able to open up to the 6 gates. He felt the aches from his overused muscle, but he has felt this before from training for the entire day, so it didn't faze him that badly. He thanked his sensei for such hard training as he jogged off into the forest. After all, he still had to help his friends, and he was sure that his opponent wouldn't be getting up anytime soon. Meanwhile, 64 palms. Neji was a mess as there was a large hole right in his shoulder from an arrow piercing through it. His clothes had several torn and cuts on it. Kimimaru had transformed, but at the moment he was stuck right into Neji's signature attack. As Neji assaulted him, moving like a blur as his hands crashed all over Kimimaru's body. The final attack sent Kimimaru slamming right into a tree trunk, his body bursting through it and slamming into another as he slumped down. If not dead, then he was severely wounded. Neji smiled up to the sky as his own body was failing him at the moment. But he has done it. He has finally proven the people that call him a genius right. He had earned the name now, and he was finally allowed to let the pain that threatened to overwhelm him come crashing down like a flood. As he started to fall, the last thing he saw was a green blur as two arms caught him from hitting the floor, but he was already out, blissfully unconscious. Meanwhile, Seikon and Ukon were pissing Naruto off. The both of them stood near to the coffin, making sure that Naruto and Gaara didn't make a move, as they could just reach in and snap, take away his neck. As they were doing that on purpose, they were waiting till the procedure was over. Gaara was already sending his sand into the earth, moving closer towards the brothers. Well, brother, it seems that the procedure is almost done. Yes, I remember our time in the coffin. Most painful if I remember correctly. As Naruto's lips start to bleed, as he started to bite into his own lip, his fangs extended. Give her back to me, or I'll rip you two to shreds, he said. Really, brother, the rudeness on this one, said Ukon. I know, it is sometimes so difficult to find civilized shinobi these days. Besides, said Seikon, I don't think it's possible for us to be ripped into shreds. You see, the Genkai that we share allow us to sip our own molecules through our targets or really solid objects. Isn't that right, brother? Both Gaara and Naruto realized Ukon was nowhere to be seen. They heard a cackling somewhere close to Gaara as the both of them looked around for the enemy. Oh please, you will never find my brother. Looking around, you will have to look a bit more inward. The man chuckled at his own joke as he heard a cackling right where Gaara was standing. To both of their shock, Ukon's head melted out of Gaara's shoulder like his body was made of water. I have never inhabited a Jinjulki before. Ukon frowned from his position inside Gaara, his molecules trying to spread out in Gaara's form. This feels like he was cut off, as a shout came from the forest behind them. Sand burial! Both brother eyes widened as the body that Ukon was currently in started to turn pale, like sand. The sand cloud blew outwards, taking Ukon and his molecules with him. Seikon stood there completely shocked as Gaara emerged from the clearing. You killed my brother! I'm sorry. Would you have liked to go first? Gaara asked. Seikon's eyes moved back in front with fury and terror. I'll kill you for that, he said. But despite that, he didn't move. Gaara raised his hand as a sand ball was created right in front of him, as the ball was pointed directly towards Seikon. Sand bullets, said Gaara. Small bullets were shot right towards Seikon at tremendous speed. But a tall, pale man suddenly dropped down from the sky and stood right in the way of the attack. The bullets merely punctured the man's skin, but they did not go through the layer of bones underneath. Kimimaru, what are you doing here? Kimimaru turned towards his teammate with cold, emotionless eyes. Lord Orochimaru grew impatient with waiting. I have come to serve him by giving the vessels time to complete the process, said Kimimaru. He turned his head, and if that required the removal of these two, then so be it. But your illness, said Seikon. I live to serve Lord Orochimaru, and if it required my own life, then so be it. As Naruto was confused, this guy just survived sand bullets. That attack usually was enough to break bones, but yet this man just tanked it like it was nothing. There was also that body armor that he saw underneath. He could swear that it was bone, but bones wasn't that tough. The two finally finished their conversation as Seikon took off, fleeing from the place of his brother murderer to Orochimaru. Naruto really didn't care. He hadn't touched the coffins, so he would just have to kill this guy before rescuing Tiwaya. Gaara, we should make this quick. That other guy might be going for reinforcements. Gaara nodded as Naruto caught it from the corner of his eye, as he didn't want to take his glance off Kimimaru. You two should leave while you can. No one has ever survived my dances before, he said. His voice sounded extremely blank. In any other situation, Naruto might have laughed, as Shinobi telling him that he was going to defeat him with a dance. He knew that some Kinjutsu styles are named by dance, but he couldn't see a sword from the man at all. Not even one. And his clothing was rather loose. He got tired of waiting as he dropped into his four-legged stance. Gaara simply crossed his arms, looking as bored as Kimimaru. Enough of this bullcrap, said Naruto. If you want to fight, you'll get a fight. None of you will stop me from rescuing her, said Naruto. As Naruto sprinted, he threw a kunai straight towards him. Kimimaru caught it with ease. He was about to throw it back at Naruto, but Naruto was gone. Thanks for holding on to that for me, said Naruto. As he appeared, Kimimaru was surprised, as a lethal kick Naruto drive to the back of his head to stop him right there and then. But two bones came from the man's shoulders and reached up to the back of his neck, blocking Naruto's kick. Kimimaru spun as he elbowed Naruto right in his stomach, knocking him away. As Naruto was launched back by the blow, he flipped as he landed on the ground, as he watched the bones receded into the man's skin. Sand shot up everywhere as he tried to crush Kimimaru to death. Kimimaru twists and turned like a ballet dancer as he got out of every sand strike. Dance of the chameleon, he said. Bones came out of the man as he held them as blades. Gaara quickly sent sand tentacle forward as Naruto could not get close enough to attack when Gaara uses sand like this. But in all honesty, it was like really a dance as Kimimaru twists and bend and twirl like he was under his tippy toes. The tentacles of sand that he could not dodge or evade. He sliced right through them by the bone that was incredibly sharp. The two seemed to be at a stalemate as Gaara drew back his hands. Kimimaru jumped back. Naruto, I need time to prepare. Keep him busy. Naruto nodded at Gaara as Gaara started to focus. As Naruto decided to not use taijutsu this time, as the bones were incredibly durable, as he could feel his feet hitting like it was hitting steel. He created 5 clones as each of them draw a kunai as they apply wind chakra. They became sharper and more durable, perfect for what he had in mind. They all took off straight towards Kimimaru, who stayed perfectly still, collecting himself as he switched into another dance. Dance of the willow, he said. All over his body, long white bones protruded everywhere that ended in sharp, deadly tips. The clone split, 2 went right, 2 went left, while the other one jumped high in the air with chakra. Kimimaru simply lowered his body into a crouch. The 4 on the ground attacked at the same time, all lashing out with their wind enhanced kunai to carve into him. Kimimaru had to produce bones from more part of his body, someplace rather awkward. The clone in the air dropped with a Rasengan as Kimimaru dodged as he kicked the clone right in its stomach, dispersing it. The other 4 battled Kimimaru as they kept their distance. As Gaara was gathering his energy for something, Kimimaru grabbed one of the clone by his leg when he overexerted himself as he spun and tossed it right into another, dispelling the both of them. One of the 2 remaining clones got a lucky blow as he sliced one of Kimimaru's bones right off with his wind enhanced kunai. His celebration was cut short as Kimimaru simply regrew the bone as he spin and deliver a vicious kick, dispelling the clone. The final clone looked at Kimimaru with anxiety and curiosity. How are you doing that? Kimimaru looked at the boy, looking for any deception, but he just saw curiosity. He coughed, a cough that didn't sound too healthy at all, as Naruto remembered Seikon talking about the illness, and he wondered if this was it. I have a rare bloodline trait from the Kaguya clan. It allowed me to control my bone fragments to reshape and grow them on a whim. He made that example by firing his finger bones, hitting the last clone as he poofed away. Why would you fight for someone like Orochimaru? Kimimaru narrowed his eyes towards Naruto dangerously. I fight for Lord Orochimaru because he saved me. My clan was warlike. Fight everything with a pulse because they refused to move on from the era of barbarians into the era of shinobis. As such, they were cut down where they stood, and I would have joined them if not for my ability and Lord Orochimaru to save me. He saved me. He gave me a meaning and a purpose. I have failed my master too many times. I will not fail again. I could not strike down the Kazekage like he had asked of me. Naruto's eyes widened while Gaara's eyes narrowed dangerously as he started to speed up what he was doing, and this illness prevented me from being his host. I will not feel him again. That is why I will bring back this vessel for him. Kimimaru started to advance towards Naruto. Seeing no other option, Naruto started to tap into the fox power to get this over with. But sand emerged everywhere in a tidal wave. It swept everything up in the air as it dropped down towards Kimimaru. In peril, sand burial, as Kimimaru was crushed down deep under the massive pile of sand, while the top formed a pyramid. The hardest elements in the ground sheathed the pyramid like a coating. The both of them waited, but nothing happened. Naruto sighed in relief as he finally released that breath that he was holding after all the running. As Naruto rushed around the giant pyramid as Gaara made his way as well, as he saw the two coffins smoking, coming from the top now. But he then dropped to the ground as the pedal mark on his arm started to burn once again. He struggled to his feet as the castics exploded outwards, smoke hiding the two shinobis from view. Someone suddenly dashed out of the cloud in the opposite direction, and Naruto knew that it was Sasuke. He wouldn't have cared about him, but he was a part of the group to bring him back if by force necessary. He waved his hand towards Gaara as Gaara chased after him. As Naruto stumbled over to the other coffin that was now in pieces, as he saw a silhouette. Then, right here, he smiled as his wrist was burning him, but he did not care as he moved towards her quickly, as he was surprised when he got near. The last of the smoke cleared and he saw Teiwaya. Well, at least who he thought was Teiwaya. She had undergone some changes. It was still her, as she was still wearing the clothes he last saw her in, but her skin was a lot darker now, beyond tan, and her hair had turned a shade of pink more than red now, and strange large white horns protruding from her head. Teiwaya was looking at her hands, her back facing away from Naruto. When she heard him step closer, she flinched as she drew in on herself, completely unlike her personality. "Get away from me, shithead. Don't look at me," she said, as she tried to move away from him. But even in his weakened state, Naruto was still faster. He caught up and grabbed her wrist as he pulled her so she would face him, as he grabbed her other wrist when she did so, looking at her new face for the first time. Like he had thought, her skin had darkened, as she looked like she was from Kumo, but her eyes got black markings on the point. As he went down, her eyes had gained black sterile, while the irises had turned a brilliant gold. He wouldn't say the last part out loud, but she became slightly curvier in this state. She tried to turn her head away, as she did not want him to see her like this. "Please, shithead, turn away. I look like a monster," she said. Naruto scowled, not towards her, as he quickly dismissed his genjutsu. He cuffed her chin as he released his natural form, his ears, tails, nails and all. "Teiwaya, you aren't a monster," he said. She saw he changed as she momentarily frowned at him. "Shithead, what if someone see..." She was cut off as Naruto pressed his lip against hers, as her golden eyes widened in surprise before they fluttered close. He kept his open as her body started to change back to normal, as she went back into stage 1 as the markings returned back to her neck. The protection seal came around the curse mark on her shoulder, cutting off its influence on her. He closed his eyes and leaned into the kiss as he placed his hand around her waist, as she placed her hand around him, both of them acting on complete instinct. He remembered something he read from Ichi Paradise, as Teiwaya felt his tongue hidden against her teeth as she opened her mouth, as the both of them were surprised at the sensation as their tongues touched, as the both of them broke away to get air with a thin saliva trail from the both of their mouth as they panted, as blue eyes stared into green. A cough was heard behind them as they turned to see Gaara standing there with a large sand ball behind him. Both of them were blushing, doing their best not to let Gaara see it. Gaara smirked before he saw a problem with the situation. "Naruto, your tails," he said. "Huh? What about them?" said Naruto. Gaara's sides shook his head, as Naruto simply chuckled a bit, as Teiwaya helped him strengthen the genjutsu. As Naruto turned his head towards the sand ball, when Chidori! A hand burst through it, but only a hand, with claws on it, the color pale. Gaara twitched the corner of his mouth in annoyance before he simply flicked his finger. The sand simply tightened, Snap! A snapping sound could be heard as the arm was broken, before it was forcefully pulled back in the sand, as Gaara covered the hole. As Naruto didn't really care about the Uchiha, he got what he deserved if he had anything to do with the kidnapping. And besides, he was a traitor to the village. The three of them started to go back, until Teiwaya noticed. What the hell? As she looked up at the giant pyramid. The group made their way back as they came across the area where spiders were, a lot of them, and arrows, golden arrows. They found Neche as Lee was tending to his wounds with his first aid knowledge. Upon seeing how injured the Haiga was, Naruto felt a pang of guilt, leaving the way that he did. He steeled himself though he knew what he was doing when he volunteered, plus the objective was fulfilled. As Naruto helped Lee carry Neche as comfortable as possible, as he was in a lot of pain, as they came across where Lee had fought Jobo, as they all looked at him at the massive destruction. Sasuke kept on making a lot of noise inside his prison, but Gaara simply constructed the sand even tighter. But he ended up passing out from a lack of oxygen, as Gaara added a few ear holes, so he wouldn't die in there as he kept on walking. They arrived to where Kiba had fought Hibiki, as they saw envoys and medics swarming the place. The group was immediately spotted and Denji was carried away on a stretcher. The envoy agents surrounded them, noticing the sand spearing their appearance. Was the mission successful? An envoy wearing a bird mask said. As Naruto nodded, as Gaara dumped Sasuke out on the ground. His seal had returned to normal, indicate that he was in fact unconscious. The envoy nodded as he motioned for one of his other operatives. The man came over and went through hand sign. Everyone was surprised and Wood suddenly came out of the ground and wrapped Sasuke up. What's gonna happen to him now? Said Naruto. The first envoy turned towards Naruto, curious. Well, they couldn't see it because of his mask. He simply looked at Sasuke being taken away. He obviously didn't feel obligated to answer any questions unless they were important to his own mission. Naruto just sighed. That kind of reaction couldn't have meant anything good. But it didn't really matter, he got Teiwaya back. They ducked into a medical tent where Kiba had been set up. There was a doctor, flicking through a chart. As his gaze lingered towards them, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Just a mild case of chakra exhaustion. As Naruto released a sigh along with Lee. It seems like everyone is okay. But guys, the end episode right here. If you want to see the next part, so do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in social media platform. And also, go ahead and check out the brand new series, guys, over on Anime King 3 of What If Naruto Was Neglected, with Jashin sealed within him. And I enjoyed that, guys. And I also post a brand new series over Anime King 2 of What If Naruto Was Neglected, and lost everything. So go ahead and enjoy that as well. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Making family. And thank you for all for helping and support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro.